We have a 138 in progress. Take this out! Take this out! Take this out!
Episode 3 now. I am D-Nag, your main man host.
And I am Mr. Natsu now.
I'm partnered with ReaperApparelCo.com. DNAG24 will get you 10% off. That's where I got this hat, so go check that out.
And also be sure to go to wenergy.gg and use code NATSU712 for 10% off any purchase through the company.
That's up. So now, what we're going to talk about today is probably going to be the fact that it was a little surprising in the first episode to see both of us in the same room talking on the same show.
Yeah.
Because
everything that's went down, the past 2 years?
About 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So what we're going to say is how that all started is realistically the fact that we didn't communicate between the both of us.
Yeah.
We didn't go straight to each other's sources and say, well, what's going on here? What are we doing? And what's figuring it out?
Right.
Getting a lot of people were saying a lot of different things about both of us, and then we got a little testy about it between just like, oh, that's what that guy said? Or that's what he said?
Like, oh, really?
Yeah. And we got a little testy about it. We weren't talking for about, 2.5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But we've solved it now, as he posted a Dear D-Nag, I believe the name of the song was.
Yep.
And, I listened to it, and I'm like, okay. I respect the fact that he admitted his mistakes, and we talked it out. So now that's why you seeing us on here now, is that some of you know that we weren't talking, there was issues going on, but that's why we're here now, and we good.
And, I mean, some of the situations was, absolutely for me, individual issues going on upstairs in the good old home there, so.
Yeah. And that's why we've solved things now, and that's why we are going to be co-hosts on the show, and yeah. So, but that's where you can go off into the next topic of really big issue in today's world is hearing things of what somebody says from somebody else.
Yeah, so pretty much not hearing it from the main source, or as some people would say, the horse's mouth, Instead of hearing it from the horse's mouth, you could hear it from this person heard from that person, they tell you, which could also lead to things.
Misconstruction or misinterpretation.
Yep.
Which is where it's a really big issue, because that's where it causes a lot of problems.
Yep.
Is if you hear this from, say, like, if you hear something that, oh, this person heard this from this person, and then this person told this person, and then now you're hearing it, it's like kind of like that old game you used to play in school, telephone.
Yep.
Bunch of people would stand around a circle, and one person would hear it, and then you're supposed to tell the other person, and by the time it goes all the way around, you've gotten like 800 different words that everybody's saying is completely off compared to what you actually said in the beginning. It's the same thing. Go listen to it and hear the story and solve your issues straight from the person. Which is where a lot of people will usually get almost excited about that stuff, is where, because it's like it causes drama.
Yeah, and let's be honest, humans love drama.
They do.
It's what we live off of.
Yeah.
Pretty much. When it comes down to it.
Most people will get excited over drama compared to hearing, oh, well, they both talked it out, situation stuff.
Yeah.
Not to shit on anybody for it, but that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Social media area nowadays, people often can even tend to start the drama just to see it and just to watch it burn. And that's where if you listen to that stuff from like, oh, well, this person was hearing it from him, and then that person told this person, and that person told this person, you'll get one of those chances where somebody's going to completely turn around what that person says and then make it sound bad. Make it sound really bad.
And we're not sitting here saying the person that was basically being our messenger between us over those 1 to 2 years was misconstruing anything.
No.
We don't know.
And then,
Because, I mean, I wasn't there for the conversations you guys were having, and you weren't there for the conversations Sim and I were having, and so on and so forth.
and that's where this is going to be a quick disclaimer where I should say this in the beginning of the video, but it's going to be said now. Nothing that we say on these videos is directly pointed at anybody, anything, or any direct situation.
Yep.
Or that's where we get a problem in episode 1. We've got a lot of problems because people were like, well, you're talking about this specific person. No, we are not talking about any specific person, regardless of what we talk about, whether it be at points we talk about relationship issues that could arise in any realistic situation or anything, even like this situation.
Yeah. It's pretty much, we're just trying to make content and give you guys advice from shit we've lived through as friends, as individuals, and just to help you guys feel I'm not alone in this, or this is what DNAG did, or this is what Natsu did in this situation, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of what to do if you're facing that situation, or if you find yourself in a similar situation.
Then you have a little idea of what could happen and what might not happen, but be prepared for. Take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes I look at it as hope for the best in a situation, but don't completely ignore the worst that could happen.
Right.
If you are aware, and you can use that in anything, if you are aware of what could happen and what could possibly be the worst possible outcome of the situation, then you know then you can plan it out and know what your next moves are going to be if this happens, or if this happens, or if this happens. It's all about being mentally prepared for what anything could possibly happen, because life is not easy. Life's going to throw you a curveball to the face when you least expect it, and if you're prepared for it, at least a little prepared for it, then you can deal with it a lot more rationally and a lot more easier compared to being completely unobscured to it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this is happening, and then you're like, well, what happened? And that's just going to, unfortunately, that's the part of life that not all of us, and nobody's prepared for it. Right. Things can happen out of nowhere. It's kind of like, I've lost quite a few family members just because all of a sudden this is happening and then they're gone. And it's like, whoa, you're not really prepared for it.
Right.
I mean, we all lose family members. We all lose people. But that's where it's like, life will throw you a curveball like that where you don't quite understand why. But you just got to move on from it. And I can't say move on from it, because if you never really...
But learn from it.
Yeah, you learn from it.
Yeah, learn to accept it, learn to,
In some situations, you can really learn from it and learn from what happened and move on.
Yeah. Kind of like the situation we're going to be talking about today, where it's a whole bunch of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And just honestly, in my opinion, just child petty shit on my end.
Yeah.
Because like I earlier stated, I went through some self-discovery on my end towards the end, which led to me making the track Dear DNAG, which I didn't even care how many views it got. I just wanted to make sure I could get everything that I was feeling, everything that I was thinking out, so everyone can know this is the situation as it is in my head. And I was hoping he would hear it. He heard it. We had, 2 phone calls, and we hung out. We discussed everything. And so we decided, with the first episode, like he said, kind of being a shock to everybody of us being in the same room, same time, talking about the same thing, we were going to discuss what started it during the time period that this happened, the year or two we weren't talking, what we were both doing and going through, and the conclusion, what happened after and before I dropped said track. So, I mean, if you want to start it, you can.
Go ahead.
Okay. Because I'll tell it from my point of view of
Yep.
hopefully what I can remember. And like I said, people, quick disclaimer from me. Like I said, you're going to see a childish and petty side of Natsu, and that's just what it is. Okay? So I was at work. Not going to disclose the location or anything, but I was at work. I was just doing normal day shift, or actually it was a night shift, and I had found out from a source that DNAG was, from what I understood, was talking shit about how he could outdrink me. And back then I was an alcoholic. I'm not anymore. It's been 2 years now. But back then I was an alcoholic, and I was really competitive when it came to drinking, so I just hit him up, said, hey, heard you were chatting shit. I can get us a fucking bottle, and we can go shot for shot, see who it was, all that stuff. And I think you tried to calm the situation down, and I took offense to whatever you said. And
Yeah,
so
I think-
yeah.
I think at the time, I said,
I
trying to
know.
remember. I think so. I said something. No, I only said
Yeah.
something along the lines of I only said that when you're around, I just tend to drink more than I normally do.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. But
Just a misconception.
yeah, but the way I took it at that time was, when you're around, when we're hanging out, I end up drinking more than you. I outdrink you, and so on and so forth. And I was like, no, it is just thoughts in my head. I was like, no, you don't. You lying. I'm like, no. And then that's where that competitive side and that kind of petty side came out. And I think it just ended up being a full-blown argument. And then
Well, I think
I can't remember.
from what I think we took a little time. Something about, I believe you wanted me to apologize
Oh, yeah.
for saying that I can outdrink you, but at the same time I was like, I didn't really necessarily say that.
Right.
So, okay. So then we took time away from talking, which really kind of caused a problem.
Right.
Which is then when we stopped talking directly
Completely.
from both the sources,
Yeah. Like we
is
did.
when everybody else that got involved into the situation was really like, well, I was just talking to him and he said this, and then the other way around, well, I was just talking to him and he said this, and we're both hearing these situations and hearing these different sides, and it's like, oh, okay. So while we're not talking, he's saying this and this and this and this. Well, then now that caused me to be like, well, I'm not apologizing. I don't care. Sorry about it.
And it got to a point where, for a good while there, I'll admit it, like I was ready to fight you on sight. Like
Yep.
that, I was done talking about it, and I figured the only way to squash this, if you weren't going to contact me and I was trying to contact you, or tell our mutual friends, like tell them to call me so we can talk this out like men. I was just at that point where it's like, if we're not going to talk, then let's just go for a walk, and just squash it, and that'll be it. Like it got to a point for me. I don't know necessarily for you, because I know you, like you said, you didn't care about it anymore. But to me, it was just like that anger of not getting it resolved
Yeah.
the way I saw fit. It was just to a point where, like, our mutual friend, who we're both close with, wanted us to check on their dogs. And if they would literally text me, and I don't know if they texted you, but they would text me and say, hey, he's there now, don't go over. Or, he's gone, you can come over and check, or, so on and so forth. And I think the one thing that really, really fired me up personally was when I did, now knowing, misinterpreting that one line from your track. I can't remember what track it was,
I don't remember.
but I'm trying to remember the line exactly of how I heard it initially. And what I heard, what my brain decided to hear and decipher from the track was, even if it causes a mess, name that starts with an N. And that's what just sparked it for me. That's what kind of threw me into that, you know what, you want to bring it out to the public, let's go public. And I'm not going to lie, you've heard the tracks I made regarding that track, which,
Yep.
I'm thankful I didn't release, because as you've shown me, it was a total misconception by
I
me.
think is from that line when you said the
Yeah.
name that starts with N.
Yeah.
In reality, I let you hear it, and I told you what it says. And then when you know what it says, then you're like, oh, I can hear that now because the line was actually something about damn will the stress ever end.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And then, so it's like, once you hear what it actually is wrote, and I showed you the writing, and I showed you the lyrics on paper, and it's like, this is what it says. And then when you know what it says, and it's like, oh, now I can hear it.
'Cause, I mean,
okay.
It's not like I got it right off the bat, because I was still hearing what my brain initially heard,
Yeah.
even after you just pointed it out. And then after
once you start
showed me the
hearing it,
lyrics, yeah.
Then once you actually see it on paper what it says, and then you
Yeah.
hear it, then it's like, okay, yeah, now I actually hear that.
And then, I mean, another thing that kind of sparked it for me was, I'm going to admit this right now, not my best work producer-wise. That was maybe when I was just starting to try and produce. And I noticed that a lot of the beats I sent you weren't on the album, like the final product. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I wasn't that mad about it because you had paid me. Like we were good on that. It's just I heard the initial final product, and then I looked at the actual final product when it was released and noticed my verses have been taken off, and this beat was switched over to this one and that one and this one and that one, so on and so forth. But like you said, now it's whatever. Because like I said, we worked it out payment-wise before anything ever happened.
Yep.
So it's like, at the end of the day, I took that and I'm like, why should I even care about what beats he's using? He already has those beats. He already paid me for them, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And, it's just like now I produced the freaking intro for the talk show
Yep.
that we're doing now. And I mean, as you can tell, I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah. And that's where and that's where my thing was around that time. I was like, half of the time, well, like I said, it was more or less the fact that some of those beats I couldn't necessarily, at the time that I was doing music, I couldn't necessarily write to some of them because it was like, whether they were more too simple enough or overly like complicated.
Yeah, too complex.
I was like, oh, I can't really write to these. It's going to take me forever to get this album down. So some of them, I used it. I found, I got the source to get a couple more beats, and I got a bunch of beats from this person. And I made them, and then I managed to write to those pretty well. And then some of those, and that's where some of those songs I feel like came out really well. Yeah. Because overall that album, I'm drawing a blank on my album name now.
Only Escape.
Only Escape, right.
I got you.
Only Escape turned out to be a pretty good album because of the fact that I feel like I used a lot more different. I used different beats that I normally wouldn't use, and kind of went out of my comfort zone for it. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, especially now that I don't plan on doing any music besides maybe putting out my unreleased tracks that I have, and then coming out with a big collector's edition of all my songs and put every one of my songs on there. Details of that maybe if I plan on doing that, I'll let you know. But I mean, it is what it is, in the sense of the fact that I really, really can't stress enough that learning the whole situation from both perspectives and going straight to that person that you're having problems with, being like, we're going to figure this out and we're not going to involve anybody else because this is where this bullshit happens. I really can't stress that enough, because a lot of situations that I've even seen personally where somebody doesn't stop, two people stop talking and then they start hearing things from people. And then it's like, well, then it makes the situation worse. It's because if you really let people into a situation, you can use this in any type of situation, whether it be a relationship, family, friends. Go straight to that person that you're having problems with and figure it out.
Yeah, because I mean, that's initially why I decided to release the track. Like I stated earlier, I wanted to get it off my chest. I wanted to get past it in order for me to kind of escape that realm of my music and just move on. But I wanted to be from the soul, from the heart, so that he knew and everyone else knew I was being genuine and as a man admitting my mistakes as a friend. Because if you go listen to that track, you can hear me pretty much say, I know I wasn't the best friend, I'll admit my fucking wrongs. Let's actually, talk. And I even wished him well, even though I didn't know if he was going to comment, call me, text me, whatever. I was just doing that to get it off my chest. And yeah, did I want him to hear it? Yeah, I did. Just so that way he could know where I was at and that, I will admit to my wrongs because I had to put myself in his shoes. I couldn't just be stuck in my ways like, oh, he said this, he said that. I literally took myself and put myself in his perspective so that way I could see it from his angle, which actually helped me do some awesome self-discovery about myself and helped me kind of change my mental state and my ways about certain shit. And then, I think it was that night I released it, you called me, or it might have been the night after. I can't remember, but I know our mutual friend told me that
somebody sent me the video. Somebody sent me the song, and I was like, okay, I'll listen to it. I'm like, okay,
right.
I can respect a man who admits his problems, admits that it is what it is now, and that it was a misconception, and that.
Yep.
All right. But like I said, go straight to the source.
Yep.
And you can even use this in a relationship. You let other people into your relationship and hear other people's opinions about that person that you're with. It's gonna cause problems.
Yep.
It really will. Or I've seen this way too many times where it's like, well, this person tells me this about you, and this person tells me this about you. I'm like, well, do you see that? No. Well, then there you go. If you show each other exactly who you are and exactly how you're gonna be, you're a lot better off.
For example, hell, even what was it, yesterday, I looked right at you straight in the eyes and I said, hell, I'll admit right now, I'm still probably not the best of friend, but shit, I'm here.
Yeah. And that's where then you get people that you are friends with for a long time. Like, I have a friend that I've known for 18 fucking years. You saw him on the second episode. He was my guest host that day. I've known that dude for 18 years because we tell each other how it is, and we even if we have problems, we're like, hey, it is what it is. We're gonna agree to disagree sometimes, but in the end, you got people. Really helps to have people that have your back regardless of what happens. Whether you take a little bit of time to not talk and then come back, or after the situation's done, you chalk it up as it is what it is. And
just move on.
And move on. Excuse me again. In the end, you're really gonna just, in any situation you have, you got to move on.
Yep.
You can't dwell on the past because the past is going to be the past because it's the past for a reason.
And the sun will always rise tomorrow.
No.
And I'd rather be focusing on tomorrow than the past.
Well, and in the end, there's never really tomorrow. It's only today.
Yeah.
You're only going to get today. You're never going to hit tomorrow, and you're never going to hit yesterday again.
Mm-hmm.
It's today. Where you take every day for what it is because every day is a gift, not a right. There are plenty of people that, I'm sure even this morning, there are plenty of people that didn't wake up this morning.
Yep.
Every day is a gift, not a right. So you can't really act as if, oh, well, I had this problem today, but I'm going to deal with it tomorrow. You may not wake up tomorrow, and then that situation goes unresolved. Yep. And if it's a situation depending, and if it's a situation where, like, it's really, really bad, then I get it. But if it's a situation that could be easily resolved by just going to that person and talking it out, do it. Because you may not get tomorrow. Hell, the world could even end tomorrow if it damn well pleased.
Which brings me to the question, my final question, not towards you, but to just everybody listening. So let's say the world does end tomorrow. Are you really going to hold grudges on people that have fucked you over in the past? Are you going to be angry at someone as soon as you wake up? Or are you going to forgive those who have fucked you over, who have pissed you off, and just focus on yourself? Are you going to take care of those you care about and yourself? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you and your decisions alone.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Once it comes down to it, the problems that you have with somebody aren't really going to be there in the end when you both are probably going to end up in that situation. If the world ends tomorrow, you're not going to need the problems anymore. You're not going to need that grudge because what's the worst the worst is going to happen.
Right.
You're both going to the same place, regardless, whatever religion, but problems aren't going to be a problem because in the end, if you end up not waking up tomorrow and you still have a lot of problems with people, what are they going to remember you for? Well, he held a grudge till the end. He hated me until the end. Why? For what reason?
And
There's no point to it.
it's pretty much, even if you absolutely loathe somebody, if you knew you were going to die today, I would rather call that person up and try to resolve it, or try to, get to a point where you're both on the same page, whether that's, okay, well, we squashed it, let's move on, or you both just say what you need to say, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Move on.
It's going to be... And sometimes you gotta swallow your pride for a minute even to do it. It's not a bad thing to swallow your pride sometimes and chalk it up as it is what it is situation and move on from it. A lot of people get prideful in the fact that they're like, well, I don't like you, you said this, I'm going to keep my pride and hate you because you said this. Well, it's like...
At the end of the day, pride isn't going to let you win.
No.
It's going to make you look stupid in some situations.
Yeah.
And, I mean, as a man, I know myself, it takes a lot out of me to kind of step over my pride and put it aside just to move on from some of these, situations and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like I said, you got to put it aside.
At the end of the day, it really is like, where is it going to get you if you keep that pride up and you continue to hate that person and continue to be like, well, I'm not talking to you. I don't like you whenever I see you in person. It's going to take, in the long run, it's going to take more just to keep your pride up for what? For the rest of your life compared to taking your pride down for like 2 seconds and being like, okay, it is what it is. Let's move on. Let's agree to not say anything about each other like that. You don't even have to talk to them for the rest of your life. You don't have to swallow your pride and continue to talk to them. It takes 2 seconds. You just have to swallow your pride for like 2 seconds. Be like, dude, it is what it is. Let's not talk crap about each other. Move on with our day. And then you could go off and not talk to them for the next 2 years. 20 years.
20, yep.
At least you put your pride down for a second. Been like, okay, it is what it is. I don't like you. You don't like me. But we're not going to talk crap about each other. Let's move on. And you go on about your day. It's all about just respecting.
Yeah. And I mean,
Respecting.
what it boils down to is just be the bigger person.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a grown-ass individual, be the bigger person. Especially if you have fucking kids, be the bigger person. Because you're not just setting an example for people around you, you are then setting an example for your children. And don't be foolish thinking, oh, they're going to grow up and handle it way better than I did. They could.
You got to show them.
They could.
You got to
But
show
they
them.
also have a chance of being raised around you like that and handling certain situations the same way you did.
You got to show them how to be the better person in order for them to be able to automatically be the better person in the future.
Yep.
Because believe it or not, them kids look up to us older people a lot more than sometimes we like to think. They look and they do exactly how you do if you show them enough times that that's how you do it. And then they're going to do it. And then what good does that do to anybody? None. Especially to that kid. It's not going to do them any better being violent about the situation exactly like how you carry yourself. It's not going to do them any good because it's going to get them into as much stuff as it did you.
Mhm.
What I want you all to take away from this video is just talk it out.
Yeah.
There's no point in any of us holding grudges against anybody.
Yeah. Even if you have to literally drive up to the person's house when you know they're home and just talk it out, not fight,
No,
talk.
don't be creepy about it, but
Talk like civilized people.
talk like people. We're all people. We all share the same. We all have the same blood running through our veins.
We all breathe
It
the
all
same
comes.
air.
We all breathe the same air. We all end up bleeding red when we get cut.
Mhm.
So what's the point? I mean, that's just take away from that fact. Just even if you have to swallow your pride for 2 seconds, do it. Move on. You don't have to talk to. You don't have to like somebody, and you don't have to talk to somebody. But it's a lot worse when you continuously hate and spew hate on that person and each other.
Because in the end, you're not doing anything if you're just doing that. You're making yourself miserable by living a life full of hatred, where that's your main focus. You wake up and you hate everything, and you hate this, and you hate that person, you hate whatever.
Yep. Just swallow your pride, even if it takes 2 seconds. I've done it several times.
Take a
And
deep breath. You know,
I feel a lot better.
even if you feel like something's going to escalate to a physical altercation, walk away for like 5 seconds if you need to.
Yep.
Or just walk away in general. You just realize it is what it is. Like he stated earlier, just walk away. If it is what it is, just walk away.
Chalk it up as a loss, chalk it up as it is what it is, and move on. But that's ultimately what I want you guys to take away from this. If you've made it this far in a video, take away the fact that sometimes it's just better to solve it and move on. You don't even have to talk to anybody about it. You don't have to talk to that person forever. Solve the situation, say, dude, it is what it is. Let's not talk crap about each other and move on with our days. Too many times we get caught up in the fact that we're gonna use our pride against them and be like, I'm not gonna talk to you. It's not gonna get you anywhere. So that's gonna be the end of this video. We've gone on for quite a while now, so the next episode will be up Friday. We're doing these videos every Friday. Hopefully at some point I will be getting enough equipment to start doing gaming videos, is what my next plan is going to be, so you guys have a variety compared to seeing us talk. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this one. Have a good day. Respect people. Just use respect.
Show love, people. Show love. Be the bigger person.
All right. It's going to be the end of this video. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all in the next one.
Deuces.
We have a 138 in progress.